Well, welcome everybody to our New Tracks meetup. I really do appreciate everybody coming tonight. I hope you'll come back many times and tell your friends about us. The more the merrier. And I really do appreciate you coming. We're going to do a little something different tonight. Instead of me talking about the train show, we're going to start having each one of the manufacturers who are participating in the show talk about it a little bit and give you their feel for it. The next one coming up is November the 21st, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we've got twice as many people who are going to be presenting in this show compared to our first one. So this one I think is really going to be outstanding, and I hope you'll find time in your schedules to attend it. So the first manufacturer that's going to talk about it is Dylan Lambert of Lambert Locomotive Works. Dylan?
All right, thank you, Jim. So some of you know me as the tech support for these little meetups, but I do also do this weird scale called ON30 off on the side. So what do? I basically manufacture our ON30 locomotive kits, whether they be full kit locomotives or conversion kits. I do those, working on growing a line of detail parts, stuff like that. So when Jim suggested the shows, I'm like, well, I haven't been able to go to a show in ages. Pretty much everyone's in the same boat. I think we can all agree. And it's like, well, we should probably do something for us small guys so we can get we can get out there and talk to people. I can't complain with how the first show went very well. Of course, I'm also, I am the tech support for it. So at the same time, while I'm presenting, I will also be running the back end and making sure everything runs smoothly for you. As far as stuff that I do go, there was some stuff we discussed in the last show. Good news is one of the kit that I purchased from Tom York, the Junkyard Dog, the first pre-order batch is finally gone out the door. There were shenanigans involved, thanks to PayPal, but they got out the door. We've got a production batch incoming of 25 kits. And I do have a handful of kits here for inventory as well, but we've got more inventory coming in. It's just a matter of, the casting guy getting them cast up so we can get those together and then get the trim and get all that ready to go. There's a few other kits we're working on too. We're working on a Steam dummy kit, which I've got the test parts coming for that. Steve Milley at Railscale Models is helping us out with that. So I've got the test parts coming so we can check them out, make sure they work, and that they'll fit. Because if they don't fit, you got to fix that, because I'm not going to send a kit out the door that a panel, like a wall panel, doesn't fit on the body. That is what we in polite society call asking for trouble. That said, there will be more stuff that we'll be announcing at the next train show, progress reports and whatnot on our projects. Expect to see some more on some of the other kits we announced, as well as some other ones that we're finally taking from design stage on the computer into the prototype stage and working on getting them made. So we can at least get a prototype made and gauge response. One of those is, of course, a shovel nose diesel, which we're working on that. We just got to get it so that way when the master and the shell is printed, for the first few of them, the test units, that it doesn't warp. So we're just throwing supports in there, and pretty simple fix, but we're looking at doing etchings with that and other components, just, mix and match the different mediums that we started to use. That's the big one. But aside from that, and my rambling, come visit us. Seriously, we had a few hundred people show up overall, both people who were there live and watched after the fact. I can't complain, because it's not like we can have a show right now. So let's do something. And the good news is we are doing something. So feel free to come join us. It's November 21st at 1 o'clock Eastern. Feel free to drop on by, or if you can't get into the live stream with us, feel free to come watch us on YouTube, because we are going to be live streaming on YouTube as well. So, Jim, I think that's enough of me rambling. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Dylan. If this is your first time or you haven't done it before, we'd appreciate it if you'd send Dylan through the chat function on your computer, your email address, your name, and what scale you model. And Dylan will send you an email for all of our future meetup shows. We have them every Wednesday and Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Also, we have a new website that TC developed for us. And the name of it is newtracksmodeling.com. And if you'll go and log into newtracksmodeling.com and register there, then you'll get all of the emails, not only for our meetups, but also all of the train shows. So we hope you can do that, and we would appreciate it. Our next show is a My Bill on October the 14th. And Chris Kuntz is going to be moderating it. And the one after that is on December the 12th. So if you have models that you're working on or you completed, we hope you'll share them with us and come and be a part of the My Bill segments. Now I'd like to turn to Rick Hunter, who is our featured modeler this evening. Rick is the owner of Hunterline. And I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from him and hearing about his modeling and his company. And I really do appreciate Ricky taking the time to join us tonight. So thank you very much. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, great. I have to correct you on one thing. I am in partnership on this, and this is my wife, Maureen. She is my business partner too. Okay, so whatever I do, she does too. We live in Cambridge, Ontario.
Maureen, welcome so much. We're so happy that you could join us tonight. We really do appreciate you coming, and I apologize for eliminating you from the ownership.
Oh, no problem. It's good to be here.
If you actually know us, Maureen does all the modeling, all of our designs and so on like that. She makes them. I design them and everything, but she makes them. So we've been in, we're in Cambridge, Ontario. We've been in business for 26 years, and we keep progressing at something or other along the line. We don't do a lot of advertising, but we go to just about every national train show there is. The NMRA National Train Show, World's Greatest Hobby on Tours, Springfield, Massachusetts, Train Fest Milwaukee. I can keep going, okay, but so that's our advertising, is to actually go to the shows. We manufacture craftsman kits, mostly bridges, and what happens is I do a lot of research on a design, and once we have it settled on what design we do, we go to build it. All of ours is in scale strip wood. It's all basswood. And we have all sorts of accessories and so on. I'll show you the first one that we started with. This is a little king post bridge. And this is an N scale one. Now, speaking of scales, we are in N, NN3, HO, HON3, S, SN3, O, ON3, TT, F, and G. I think I covered them all. So this was our first design that we come up with. It was a simple little bridge. A lot of people think these are for roadways. Yes, they were for roadways, but they were also for trains. And oh, hi, Clark. Good to see you. So this was our first attempt, and we decided, okay, we'll just expand up from this. All we can do is go up. So all our lumber is actually Mount Albert scale lumber, with a few exceptions that we can't get through Mount Albert, but because they're another Canadian company, they started about the same time we did. So we kind of hit it off ever since then. We progressed up to more complicated bridges. The next one up was probably up to our trestles. This is one of our trestles. This is N scale again. Now you got to remember, we do these in like O scale. O scale, I can't fit it on the screen, so that's why I'm doing N, maybe some HO too. But what we do is after I do the research, I'm in AutoCAD, so I actually put everything together on AutoCAD, all the different views, and I do it in real world terms, which means the computer actually thinks something is 100 feet, it's 100 feet. And then the rest is just a scaling mathematical factor. As soon as it starts to scale down and loses its littleness, is that a good word? Then we don't put it in the kit. Like NBWs for N scale. Yeah, we do have some, but not for little tiny ones. So we developed more and more. One of the things I wanted to do was make a snow shed. Nobody in the world makes a snow shed except for us. And this is actually an N-scale snow shed again. This is actually mile 24 on the Quilcahaula subdivision in British Columbia. And this is pre-1938. How come I know it's before 1938? Was because in 1938, they changed all the feet here to concrete. I like wood. So that's what we do. I have a very glorified workshop. I should say we have a glorified workshop because we do share it. And I have all special equipment made by a local guy here who makes it all out of recycled parts. I have miniature chop saws. I got miniature table saws. My biggest blade is a 2 1/4 inch blade. So all my table saws have got that. These big 7-inch blades, I don't have any use for them anymore. One of the things that happened along the way here was back in the 2004, 2005, we lost all our stains like Floco, polyester, testers, all of them disappeared. So we decided, okay, we got to have something, let's make our own. So we took an article, I think it was, oh boy, it was in Model Railroad in November 57, I think, or somewhere back then. And it was mixing dye and alcohol. So we have produced all our own dyes and stains at this point that we call weathering mix. This is a couple of the bottles. This is what our branding bottles look like. So these are all 70% isopropyl alcohol with leather dyes. We did have inks for a while, but we found out that inks didn't completely mix with the alcohol where the dye does. The inks will actually coat the inside of the bottle and then flake off. And we didn't like the flakes on it. So we kind of got away from the inks. Wayne, do you want to tell them about pigments?
The pigments. Sure. We've got 4 pigments. And what we do is we mix a pigment with the 70% isopropyl alcohol. And it's a little bit thicker. So it will actually adhere to the light or a dark stain that's on your wood or plastic models. You can dry brush it on, or you can put it on straight from the bottle. It works really well. We've got one that's cement, cottage white, sky blue, and shale. They really work well on rocks as well. Sometimes I'll put just a light coat of light gray, one of our light gray stains on the rocks, and then take the pigments, the shale, the cement, or the cottage white, and just kind of dab it onto the rocks, and it really gives a great effect. Looks great. Anything? I don't know if there's anything else about pigments.
Well, the big thing about pigments lately is we have not been able to get alcohol since the 2nd week in March. So when we announced to all our distributors and dealers in our customer database that we can't get alcohol, did we ever have a tsunami surge? And by the 2nd week in April, we didn't have any bottles whatsoever. Now we have a US warehouse in Maryland, so that's where most of our stock is. But we were out of stock in Canada and virtually out of stock in the United States, and we just could not get alcohol. We did find a source on eBay for $48 a bottle, and usually we pay $1.69. So that was kind of a real letdown from COVID. the good news was last week, we found a supplier not 10 miles from our place, and we bought 50 gallons. So we are just on the verge of going back into production on it. So we should be having it into Maryland. We hope to have full stock by the middle of November. It might not happen, I don't know, depends on how things go. Okay, let's go back to the kits for a few minutes. Because we're in so many scales, we had to go ahead and quickly distinguish between scales without reading the labels. So all of our kits are color coded. Like N is orange. So they actually come in an orange package. That makes it pretty quick to identify. And HO is blue. S, which is true S, is yellow, and O scale is green. And then if it's labeled for narrow gauge, then that means that our drawings are actually for a standard gauge and for the narrow gauge. So there's like 2 sets of drawings in there, depending on what you want. We give you the better of the doubt for the wood, so you will have plenty of wood. A big kit, naturally they can't go in those little sleeves. So this is what a big kit looks like. This is HO, it's blue. And you can see that is actually a Howe truss. When we got into getting more complicated on the bridges, we decided to dig into Howe, who was from Spencer, Massachusetts. And this is about 1840 when he started to make his designs. I think the first one was patented in 1840. But the thing about a Howe is the king post and the queen post, they could span short little distances, and they kept expanding those. But the problem was that locomotives became heavier, so they had to beef up the bridges all the time. So we've come up with this. This is our Howe. And this is 170 foot in HO. Naturally, you can see that we could not put the O scale one up here. It is twice as long as this. So this one, this is very prototypical. And what I mean by that is each one of the, if I can tip it over without wrecking it, each one of the stringers actually have a little space between them. And we have our little spaces that are pre-cut in there so that you can actually, and I guess you can't see it right now, but you can actually see that space down between them. And that actually gives the right measurement for all the other components that go on it. Now, about the actual design, when they produce a little Howe, they don't care how a little one is put together. Basically, each of these little, what's called a panel, was like prefabbed. They were all the same and so on. But when you got a big span like this is where a neat design comes into effect. This is actually a 14 by 14, a 12 by 12. Sorry, 14 by 14, a 12 by 14, a 12 by 12, 10 by 12, 10 by 10. And the ones going this direction get bigger as they go to the middle. That is engineered properly. It's pretty hard to see on this one, but the bigger the scale, yeah, you can actually see that everyone is a different size. Our rods, you can see that there's many rods in that, are actually a phosphorus bronze wire, because we find that phosphorus bronze wire is extremely friendly as opposed to brass or piano wire. Like this is one you can just snap in the bottom and give it a little twist and up it goes in the top. Which is great, because if you did that with piano wire, it's history. If you do that with brass, it's history. We have a lot of MBWs on this. We have a lot of bolt plates on this. Like it's something like, I don't know, 500 or 600 MBWs. And you can see on the top, there's a bolt plate. That bolt plate is actually designed by me and produced by Tishy Train Group. And same with the barrels here. Like you can see each of the big bridges has a barrel. I don't know if you can see that. That barrel, nobody made a barrel design I own, and she produces them. This being HO, let me see you get your hand in there to clean the track or do anything with track work. So we always suggest that you never attach inside. You might put a little screw here and a little screw there just to hold it taut while it's being used. But that's one of the things, okay? Just a technique that afterwards you'll be appreciated of. That was the HO version. We also have the deck version of that. For those who don't know the difference, a through bridge means it actually, the track is inside of the structure and goes across it. The other one is a deck bridge, which means the track actually go on top of the whole structure. What's the difference? Depending on how much room they had before the floodwaters come up and so on. The deck bridge is actually cheaper to make than the through bridge. They were popular just about everywhere. The Trestles, we have a lot of comments coming back to us. They don't make these anymore. Oh, wow. We see them everywhere on the super main lines. Like one of the ones we were just at was we're at Del Mar, just outside San Diego on the coastline. And here's this exactly the same design as what we have going along the coast. And it's used day in and day out, which was really good to see. We find them everywhere, but then we're looking. And we do a lot of traveling, going to all the shows that we do. Used to do, let's put it that way. We're a motorhome and a trailer and off we go. We love it. We have a lot of fun doing it. We meet an awful lot of people, and we have lots of plans coming up. If I can get to them, we thought through COVID that we might be able to get to them, but the kits have been going really well through COVID, where the stains, we don't have any, so we can't do any of that. So that whole section of our business is just basically gone. We want to just quick show you how our stain reacts to wood, okay? Wayne's going to take you through a process here. Now, when we do this we do a lot of make and take shows, and we do a lot of clinics at shows. And one of the clinics is a 45-minute thing on our weathering mix, what to use it for, how to use it, and all that. So Maureen is actually what's called distressing the wood, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see you distressing the wood.
Okay, I've just got a piece of basswood here, and what I did was I took a fine tooth razor saw and just drag it across that wood. You can put scoops in it, or bang it with the tip of it, put little knots in it, and put a fair amount of pressure on that. And then just use the weathering mix straight out of the bottle. And I just got a creosote black here. And
you're supposed to be using this with gloves, but
yeah. That was a hard thing to find too, with COVID going on. Couldn't find any gloves. But yeah, you can use the weather mix straight out of the bottle, or put it in a little disposable dish and just apply it. And it really shows the grain. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but just let me get it coated here.
One of the things we stress about this, it only takes a few seconds and the whole thing's done.
Yeah. And you can, usually when I'm doing a project, when I do a kit, I start with a really light color, like a light brown or a driftwood or a light gray. And then I'll go back after the model is complete and all glued together. And I'll go back and I'll dry brush different colors on it just to, give it a little bit more depth. So I'm not sure if you can see the grain on that, but anyway, it's easy, simple, and it dries, 15 minutes it's dry, or even less. You just clean up the brushes with soap and water, or just water, or sometimes I don't even clean it. I just set it aside and wait for the next one.
We get asked about some of the like the glues and brushes. The brushes we use, if you can get a dozen for $1 at one of the dollar stores, do it. There's no use using a really good brush on it. There's no advantage to it. Glues, we use only wood glue. We do not use any CA glues. Only wood glues because of the fact that they're completely, like CA glues are non-forgiving. Once it touches, that's it. Where this, you can have time to adjust, make sure it looks right to you. We usually use carpenter glue, which is rated excellent for wood. So that means like right now we use Type Bond and Elmer's, LePage's, but the carpenter glue. And what we look for is that on the label, it says fast tacking or tacks up or sets up quick. That's what we look for, because we've done clinics before where people have used, well, the guy I'm thinking about actually used his grandson's kindergarten glue, you know, flour and water. And after 4 hours, it still hadn't set up. Like, you got to use some good glue, okay? I think that's the short run of it. You know, we are very prototypical. In our travels, we are always rail fanning. We are always walking the rails. We like this summer, because of COVID, we didn't do too much, but we had a brand new great grandchild out in Victoria, BC. So out we went, and they have all these abandoned train lines. So we walked the lines and watched, looked at some pretty big bridges. What was the big bridge last year?
Forget the name.
Oh boy. Anyways, this is one of the greatest trestle bridges I have ever seen, or ever seen a picture of it even. It was a combination of, geez, I can't remember the name of it now. Anyways, it was a combination of a trestle bridge and a howl bridge, which is just right up our line. And the thing is, okay, there's a lot of, out west, there's a lot of trestles and a howl bridge and a trestle. Problem was, is this howl bridge was underneath the trestle. The trestle was built on top of the howl, and I've just never seen that before. Plans for the future, we do have some things that are actually CP prototype. Like the howl I just showed you is actually from Durango. And what we have coming up is we have a stock pen. It's a Canadian Pacific stock pen coming out. We have a 4-post trestle bridge coming out. What else is on the list?
We did our covered bridges.
Yeah, we did the covered bridges. And that was something, a challenge with the covered bridge, because we wanted to use our queen post truss design, which I know they made. And I know they made it in a covered bridge design. I can't find a prototypical picture of it. I've read about it and so on, but I have just not found a prototypical picture of it. And if anybody has one, I'd sure like to get a hold of one, but it's got to be a queen post truss covered bridge. There, this is it right here. And you can, if you can see inside there, it's actually a queen post design. Doing this project created another issue with us. We could not find a shake or a shingle or any type of roofing that we wanted. So we searched all over the world. We could not find a shake type. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's actually a very big wooden shake. People tell us that this is overscale. It is not. The overscale means that it's the 1/4 inch thick and it's very much in a straight line. Back in the 1800s, they did not do that. We had to study how they actually made them. But anyways, okay, this is the only laser cut item that we have. And the people who do the laser cutting for us is Imagine That Laser Art, which I believe are on your schedule for next month sometime. They're close friends of ours, and we converse back and forth a lot. So we like to do the shows, and it's really disappointing to us that we haven't been able to go to any. Are we going to any in the future? I don't know. Our borders are closed, so we can't get into the United States, and we can't get back afterwards. So that presents a problem. We're glad that we have our U.S. warehouse, because any shipping to any American customers, is done through Maryland. So our problem is to get them from here to Maryland, which is always an issue. Pardon me. But we're so happy that our alcohol problem is basically solved, and especially since it's local. Like, we could get the alcohol, but it was way out of price. In the past, we've sold this for $10 a bottle at the retail level, and because of the increase in dyes, the increase in alcohol, we've had to raise the price to $13 US. And even to our Canadian friends, it's still $13 US. We have no choice. We've got a lot of orders here that we have to fill. So in the next few weeks, that's all we'll be doing. A little story I can tell you about the weathering mix. A lot of times we are making it on the road. Like we got a motorhome and a trailer. So we convert the motorhome into a lab. And so one of the first times we were doing that, we were in the desert of New Mexico. And we looked at each other and said, we're Breaking Bad. Now, you have to know the Breaking Bad series to get anything out of that. So our friends and our warehouse people, they all know what happens when we're Breaking Bad. And it's not to do with meth, it's got to do with alcohol. But anyways, I think that just about sums us up. We have a lot of plans to go. We will be getting two of them. It's not one of those things that we can produce overnight. It takes sometimes years. Like that How Trust took me about 4 or 5 years in the research end to get it right. Because if you're going to do prototype, you gotta get it right. We do not compromise on wood sizes. If it takes a 6x6, it's a 6x6. If it takes a 6x12, it's a 6x12. And our end scale, because nobody produces end scale lumber out there, our end scales are a substitute. Now, that does not mean half of HO, because we find that S scale sometimes is a lot closer than half of HO. So we have the full gamut of the lumber yard here from Mount Albert. So we can mix and match and come up pretty accurate. Like we have always said that we're 3 thou from tolerances, and we try and maintain that, and we get close most of the time. Our end scale, for an example, we do have rods that are prototypical size. We have MBWs that are prototypical size. Bolt plates are prototypical. So we are really overboard on doing it right. We go through a lot of kits. We're worldwide, and we can't be worldwide in this because of international trade laws on alcohol, but we try. I think that just about sums us up.
Mhm.
Well, Rick, we've got.
See you on a train show.
Well, let me invite you to be in our train show. We have a virtual train show coming up, November the 21st, and we have another one January the 16th. And if you and your lovely wife would like to be in our train show, we'd love to invite you and hope that you'll come.
That is a strong possibility. We've never done a virtual train show.
Well, it's not much different than what you're doing right now, because you'd be talking to the people and they'd be asking you questions, and you go from there. So it would be as close as we can get right now to being in a real train show. And we're trying to fill that void. And we hope we're successful. We had a lot of favorable comments on our first one. And like I say, the second one has already got twice as many people presenting as the first one did. So we're very encouraged by that. And we hope you will consider it. If you'd like, I will send you an invitation and then you can make up your mind.
By all means.
Let me ask you this: the bridges that you build,
Yes.
which of your stains do you really recommend for the bridges?
Every place across North America is a different color. Okay. Usually we suggest light browns or light grays and then add to them. Like we strongly advise doing it multiple colors, like 2 or 3 or even 4 colors. One of the colors we always like to end with, and we call it a highlight color, we call it creosote black. Nothing to do with creosote, it's just a black wash. But on train stuff, you got oily, greasy, grimy, crappy stuff. So that just fills it right in right away on all the ties and where the smoke and cinders would go. That's our #1 color, is the creosote black by far, because it can be used everywhere. Put it on your locomotives, put it on all your boxcars, everything. So you want to, we're not plastic people, but our dealers have come back to us and said, you have to try weathering mix on plastic. And I said, well, not really. And they've come back and told me that one of the unique things about using alcohol on plastic, it dissolves the releasing agent that's on the plastic and during the manufacturing. And it dissolves that and puts the color on all in one operation. One of the things we tell people a lot is how quick it is. Maureen can weather up a boxcar in 10 minutes just by using our stuff, different colors, different areas, and so on. And we always have samples on our tables to show you that, okay? And in our clinics, we show you that too. It works on hydrocal, it works on paper, it works on foams. We actually have customers that use it on clothing, even though we thought tie-dye was kind of dead, but people use it for that too, which is great. We even have on our website, you'll find oil painting of a landscape, okay, a seascape actually. And I said, well, where is our stains? So they used our, what we call sky blue, and they did their sky, the base of the sky is our sky blue, because it was cheaper to do that much area out of our stuff than it was to do it out of oil. And then the clouds and stuff that are on top of it are oil. But the background was all our stuff, and we never even thought that would exist. One of the things about using alcohol and dye is that it's permanent. It will never come off. So if you get it on your clothing, it will always be there. We have certain train shows that we can actually show you. Gee, somebody had one of our bottles over there, or so on. Like Springfield, Massachusetts is a good one. In the bathroom, the fellow put the bottle down on the counter, and then his elbow hit it against the wall. So it hit the wall, broke the cap, came down on the countertop, slid off the countertop onto the floor and across the floor and hit the wall on the other side. And we can show you exactly where that is. Hey, he had to buy another bottle.
Jim, if you go back to the color of the bridges, I think, you know, it depends if you want a bridge that has just been built and is pretty new looking, you'd probably want to do it in one of the darker colors, you know, or if you wanted the old weathered bridge, start out with something light, like this one.
They're not on yet.
No, well, I've got it up there. I started out with the driftwood, which is really a nice light color. And then I took my creosote black and I sort of just dry brushed it on different areas to to highlight it and put where the dirt might be, the grime and the grease.
Yeah.
And you can see it really, really well on the top of this one too, where the smoke might have been coming up
Very
through the
nice.
top. So I made it darker there. So it just depends what, you know, how old your bridge is gonna, what you want it to be, or if you want it really weather beaten looking, I would make it really sort of light, pick a light color. The light grays and the driftwood are really nice for that. Starting out with that anyway, and then building on it, adding different, maybe a Cordovan brown or a medium brown or something, and dry brush that on top as well, and leave some of the lightness coming through. Yeah.
That Maureen just mentioned about, that's one of the techniques we use all the time, is when we do an initial coat, it's always a wet coat, so it can soak in. But usually subsequent coats after that are dry brushed. Not always, like the creosote black works really well as using a wet brush, because then it drizzles down and it gives the effect that it's running. But usually subsequent colors are done in a dry brush effect. Now that takes a long time sometimes, but the effect is so much easier to see and to do. It just works well. You're talking about the color of some of the bridges. Well, we've never seen blue bridges, but one of the make and takes we did one time, the guy made a bright blue bridge. Okay, actually, going across the Blue Water Bridge in Sarnia is blue. We've seen white bridges. We've seen every color going. So what color to do it, it's up to you. But we suggest starting with a light gray or a light brown, and then working off it that way to what you think looks good.
Do you have to seal it with a dull coat or anything like that, or is it
Nope.
just
Nope.
it's there?
None of our demos have got any type of other coating on it. The ones we just showed you today are that's straight out of the bottle. Just let it dry. Now they've been highlighted with various the crystal black or whatever other color we're doing, but no, straight out of the bottle. And some people ask us, why do you rub it off like a stain? No, just let it soak in. Now, if you want that color, but a much lighter version, all you have to do is mix some more 70% isopropyl alcohol with it. Don't mix water. The water is will repel the alcohol and the dyes. Our dyes are formulated to mix with alcohol. And we go through a lot of dyes, sometimes on the floor. If you look at our YouTube on our website, it's done on the same table we're on right now. And halfway through the clinic, Maureen spills the bottle across the table. And we didn't miss a heartbeat. We just kept on going because we thought of editing it out. Well, why? Because that's life. Like that happens, okay? This is what happens when the bottle spills. So we've got lots of experiences that we could talk about and so on, but lots of border crossing issues, but it's all part of what we have to do.
Rick and Maureen, I just want to say I remember you at Lakeland Community College.
Oh, wow.
In Ohio,
Yes.
when you were there. And it would be great if we could all get back to doing that. But
Yeah.
it's nice to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see
Good,
you too.
good. That was kind of a neat show.
So Rick, did you say you were looking for a Queen's Post covered bridge photo?
Yes.
Quick search of Oregon bridges says Antelope Creek is a Queen Post covered bridge.
Great.
Wow.
Great. Like I have a
Several
pretty
pictures
big
there.
library of books.
So
That's Oregon. Okay.
Good. I have a pretty big
If you-
library.
If you have
of
a
books.
if you have a link, throw it in the chat. And that
Okay,
way
good
you guys
point.
can get it out of the chat.
Sure.
thank you. Also, thanks for this. I never realized you guys did kits. I thought you was just the weathering materials, but some nice bridges, and scale
That's the
bridges. Thank you.
secondary.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
never knew
like,
about it. The rest
and the
of
end
it.
scale. The end scales are to scale, okay? They're not a substitute. But hey, sure.
Oh, there's
Also, you might want to check
Oh,
out,
great. That's cool.
yeah, you also might want to check out Vermont. Apparently they have every covered bridge under the sun.
I actually have books about the Vermont bridge and New Hampshire bridges and all the New England bridges. And there's not one of them that's a queen post bridge in there. I don't know. I just can't find any.
Wow, that's interesting.
I always blame that on they were popular before photography was. So how do you get a picture of it?
This is
Now
a
you
stupid, I got to ask a stupid question. What's a queen post bridge?
Okay, this is a king post bridge, okay? And the difference is a king post has one vertical support through it, okay? It's still a vicious triangle, which is the greatest support you can get, okay? But in this case, it's got one singular rod going up it. Now, it was in later years, it was a rod, but to start with, it was a wooden one. This, then they decide, okay, let's take this design and expand it. So they expand it into a queen post. So you see, that's the same basic design, just longer. And it's got more tension rods in it, okay? And then, if you look at that, that's where that came from.
Huh.
They just expanded that little queen post. In the early 1800s, 75% of bridges in North America were a queen post design. But they didn't last too long because locomotives got heavier and heavier, and they couldn't beef them up quick enough for the locomotives. One of the interesting things I found in doing bridge engineering was that there was a factor of how much weight, and a locomotive being the heaviest item that they could get to go across a bridge, there was a factor in there. And a guy by the name of Cooper created the Cooper tables, which states, okay, this type of design will take 30 tons. This type of design will take 60 tons. And that was what the factor is. That factors are still used today in every bridge that's built. It's called a Cooper table, and it's called an E factor. So an E50, E100. So they all take that many tonnage. So I think now they're up to, I don't know, E1500 or something like that, because they just need more weight all the time. They need to upgrade the weight. But it's kind of neat. What they used as that gauge was a Berkshire engine, because it had, at the time, it had pilot wheels, drive wheels, and trailing wheels. And then it had the tender behind it. So I think it was a combination of 10 axles or something. And that was the gauge for all the Cooper tables. I found that really interesting.
I'll be darned. So this queen post bridge that you're looking for, what weight? I mean, what wheelbase, or what kind of locomotives would have used that?
This would be probably the heaviest one that could go over it would be like a 440 or something like that. One of the things I can kind of show you here, and this is different between a king post and a queen post and all the modern bridges. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the stringers, the piece of wood that goes all the way across from one end to the other end, if you can look at those, I don't know if you can see it or not, they're actually equal spaced.
Okay.
And later they said, you know, that's silly for a locomotive. All the weight is underneath the rail. So that's when they turned to if I can pull this out. Going to 3 separate stringers, and the wheel and the rail actually go on the center one there. So instead of having them equal spaced across, they grouped them together under the rail. That made more sense. But
Yeah.
back then, they were equal distance.
So more like a road bridge.
Yeah, like a lot of times, the train bridge, instead of demolishing it, they would actually turn it into a road bridge. I know a guy that has a king post bridge of an abandoned rail line that went across his property. So he got permission from the rail line to use it for his driveway. And for his equipment, it was like really overkill, but it's going to last forever.
Mm.
And you will find the odd one that's still used as a road bridge.
There's one, if you're going up where the Sumter Valley Railroad used to go, you're going up the road. There's an old Queen Post bridge on someone's driveway that's actually made, part of it's made out of old rail. It's metal, it's not wood. Really thin.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, one of the lines that was notorious for Queen Post bridges was TH&B, Toronto, Hamilton, well, to Helen back that was, but the Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo. All the bridges that it went across of going around Lake Ontario were all Queen Posts at one time. Now, longer ones than that, because you could actually put multiple divisions into it, okay? And that's why they went up to developing the Howell Bridge. But I've got some pictures of the Queen Posts, and instead of just one section in the middle, double section in the middle, which is almost looks like a Howe strain pony bridge. But it doesn't reach the criteria for heavy locomotives. So, but I can't tell you how many there were from Buffalo to Toronto, but there was a lot of them. And now they're just superstructures that go across the, you know, at that track level, like they don't go up and down the hills all the time.
Well, the link that I put for it's a Wikipedia article, but it has about that I was able to count that I had 26 Queen Post bridges, but I'm not quite sure if they're I didn't look at them, so it's like I don't know if they're up to what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, we got lots of pictures of the Queen Post. It's just a Queen Post covered bridge that we couldn't find. And now we might get our hands on one. That's great.
Well, that's
in our kits.
That's the link that I put down there is all the covered bridges in Vermont, and there was 26 Queen Posts. Even apparently also the last or only covered Howe truss bridge also.
Well, Howe truss, it's amazing. If you've ever heard of the Hartford covered bridge in New Brunswick, it's the longest covered bridge that was ever made. And so last time we were there, it's our exact Howe. The big Howe bridge that I showed you, that's exactly it, but covered. When we were there, it was just at dusk and we couldn't stay. So I couldn't take a lot of pictures of the inside and so on. I just couldn't do it. It was just too dark. But next time we go by there, we're gonna stop and get a whole bunch of pictures. You know, one of the big trestles I like, and like we've done a number of shows in Kansas City, and when you're coming through on I-70 and you go through the intersection of the interstate that goes around the southern side of the city, as soon as you get on that, as soon as you're on the ramp, there is a huge trestle there on a main line that's used all the time. And people in Kansas City don't even know it's there. But, you know, going along I-90, I-80, I-70, we see trestles all the time because we're looking for them. Kinso, yeah, that bridge out in Vancouver Island that we went to look at was the Kinso Bridge. And if you ever get a chance to just look at it, it's amazing because they took, okay, going back to this is the Howell Truss, and this is a Howell Truss. So what they did was, I think 5 or 6 of these in a row, and built the trestle up on top of it. And if you go to their websites, just Google Kinso, and you'll see exactly what I mean. It's an odd shaped thing to have a how underneath the trestle. But it was nice to climb all over it and walk it a few times, and they have a lot of history there. One of the things I was going to ask about, or tell you about in our kits, the first page of the kit is actually the history of what pertains to that bridge. And then we give you all sorts of techniques and methods that we use to get the finished product. And then we go into the actual detail of every part. Now we use a whole series of text and a whole series of images to get you through it every step of the way. Some of our instructions are what, 30, 35 pages long, but we want you to understand, we assume you know nothing when you make one of our kits. And that's a good thing. One of the things about the trestles is because we've done them at a number of make and takes, everybody wants to do the curve, and that's great. But how do you put the trestle on the curve? Well, we've done this so often at clinics and so on. We have actually documented very easily how to do a curve. It doesn't matter what the radius is, but how to do it on a curve, and you can't miss. If you use our simple, straightforward instructions on how to build it on a curve, you can't miss. And it's actually pretty easy once you get to look at our drawings on it. Oh, that's how you do it. Okay, great.
I'm posting
a
link here to a Wikipedia page on Queen Post bridges.
Yeah.
And the example they use is the Day Bridge in southwestern Pennsylvania, Morgan Township, Greene County. It's a Queen Post covered bridge.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey,
Painted barn red.
Great.
That's good. We can add that to our instructions.
Yep, because like we in our instructions, we actually put the prototype pictures in it when we find them. But for that one, we just could not find one.
Well, I would grab those 2 pictures very soon because
Yes.
Wikipedia has been known to change.
Okay.
That's good. We always say to our customers, when you build one of these bridges, send us an image back of it, and we usually put them on. If it's a really good quality and they did a really good job making the kit, we will put it on our website. And if you look on our website, there's a long list of images that of what people have done to them, and that's great. Like we love getting the feedback.
This is an interesting bridge. It's got stone abutments and the railings are made out of round post, wood railings.
Yes.
Strange.
Wow.
Anyway, go
Wow.
grab those pictures.
Yes, you know, we've seen some of those bridges like that actually they have a live bark on them.
I haven't seen that yet.
They couldn't be bothered to take it all off. Okay, they skimmed it a little bit, but that's it. And those are great too. They don't take up much weight because they're usually only small sizes to start with. But yeah, there's some out there like that.
Hmm.
But covered bridges,
I have seen a pile trestle done that way.
yeah, we have pile
Basically,
trestles too.
Just raw logs.
Yes, yep,
The knots and the limbs are still on it, and
yep.
logging lines, of course, not on a main line.
Now, see, for our trestles, we have two designs. We have what's called a frame and a pile. The frame being a square post that sits on a wooden sill, and the wooden sill would sit on concrete, rock, or something solid. And the piles. Now, we're one of the few in the world that actually have round basswood, and it's in our kits. We have to pay a big buck for those, but we want the authenticity. Yeah, we could go and get maple or birch or any of the dowlings that would suffice, but it's harder to work with and it won't stain the same. So to get the effect that we want, we use basswood round stock. And it's very expensive, really hard to come by, but we have a good supply and we insist on that. That's what goes in our kits for the pile versions.
Hey, if you guys want, I'll show some pictures of some of the stuff I've used with your products. It's I've had some great luck with it. No, if Ellen could give me screen sharing, I'll put up a couple pictures.
All right, there you go, Chris.
Thank you. And here is the top of the 24-foot box car that I've done. For the most part, I start out with the driftwood stain, and I'll just put at least one coat on there. And after I'm done, I'll hit it with some more driftwood. Maybe I forget what it was I used for the brown parts on this one. I can't remember if it was the raw. I don't think it was the raw sienna, but there's another color that's somewhat similar to it. And then I like the. I think there's a blue gray that I'll finish it off with also. And here's
great. That's great. And for the viewers, note how every board has its own characteristic of texture and what color it is. And you can see that everyone's basically a different color.
That's super.
Different shade.
Yeah, I used the Ponce wheel to get the nail holes in this one.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And let's see, I think you guys have pictures of this on your website because I sent some photos of it to you. But this is Bush's Mill. And I think I'd started out with I want to say 4 of your stains, and all 4 of them are on this model. It was the driftwood, the blue gray, and one or two of the browns that I've got.
I'm seeing the flat car.
Oh, you still are? Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, because I clicked the wrong thing. All right, let's see how I go back and let me see if I can do it this way.
Good. Did you see the show today?
All right, there we go.
Oh yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. So that's that's Bush's Mill. Like I said, it's got 4 different things, and really what I found is I'll just take strip wood and really I'll just splash the stain on there, and very randomly, because if you notice on both sides of the window that's on this side, you'll see the variations, and that's how you get it, is just by splashing stuff on there without any real thought to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Look great.
Like it's easy. We find that people put too much. They go overboard in trying to get it to look right. Well, Mother Nature is many colors, many textures, many everything. So it doesn't matter. Whatever goes, goes.
Yeah, and then let's see, I've got one more that I can share here that let's see. This is my current project, and this is going to be the Caboose. What I actually did is I put a coat of stain on it first, and then painted over the top of it, kind of a dry brushing technique. And
Yes.
I think that'll,
good.
it's gonna end up coming out pretty neat. Then I think what I might do is brush on some more, like maybe some more of the driftwood over the top of it to see if I can bring out some more of those highlights.
Yeah,
That looks great.
that's cool.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you for sharing that.
So when that project gets a little farther along, send it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do. But the big thing I've noticed with the Hunterline stuff is you got to brace it pretty well. You know, do a good job bracing it, otherwise it warps.
That's the big issue about laser cut wood. And we say, oh, the stain works great on it. And that's why we use alcohol, because alcohol dries so quickly, it doesn't have a lot of time to work. Now, it will work, and you do have to brace it behind it. So we tell everybody with laser kits, just if it tells you to put a brace every 1 inch, put it every half an inch or whatever, just to overemphasize the bracing, because they like to work, especially with putting multiple coats on it.
Yeah.
But see, all of our stuff is actually strip wood, so we never have a warping problem.
Right. But figured I'd share those.
That's great. I might add one of the, we're always looking for new colors and so on. And last year, like a year ago in March, we were discussing what colors could we use. So we got up on St. Patty's Day and Maureen says, green. So we put 4 or 5 colors of green out there. They're going pretty good, but they're just catching on, okay? One of the new things we're looking at, when we use our pigments, the pigment is actually a paint, okay? So we developed that so that a light stain would go over top of a dark stain, especially on plastics. So those colors with the pigment in do that. Now, one of the 2 of the colors that we're coming up with now is we've tried to figure out a way of doing flex track or any of the prefab tracks. All the ties are the same color. So using one of our pigments, be it a gray pigment or a brown pigment, you can almost make those plastic ties come to life better. We're just developing those now because we couldn't get alcohol. We couldn't even do our little samples. But that's coming up in the future is to have a weathering mix that actually will enhance ties, prefab ties. Oh, that's great. Isn't
Yeah,
that
you
cool?
mentioned green, and it was like, oh, I got to get some of that and see if I can make a like a what do you call it? Like a mildew.
Like a moss.
Yes. And you know, like an area that gets a lot of reflected rain or whatever bounced off of it.
Looks good.
That's great.
So
Good job.
thanks.
You need some mildew and moss on that metal roof.
Yeah.
You make a rust spot where it's eaten through, and then it's got this clump of moss holding the roof together.
That really happens.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's like you wonder if it got a moss roof or a metal roof.
If it was light out, I could take you outside and show you one on a garage right now.
Well, what time is it there, Rick?
It is 10 after 8. And it's dark.
I've still got daylight.
There, do you see what Clark Kooning just said?
I did not.
Okay.
I
It
did.
says,
If you
If
don't
you
drink
drink-
enough alcohol, you don't get moss.
Yeah. The phrase we use at shows all the time, because everybody jokes about it being drinkable. And we always say, well, if you have any ailments, it'll cure you in less than 20 minutes. You won't have to care about anything after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tell people sometimes that to hurry up and buy it because we got to go hook up the horse and get out of town. And you know why we have it in this type of a bottle? We were looking for some type of a bottle, about 8 ounces, and the proper shape to put the label on it and stuff like that. And we weren't really sure what the effect of ultraviolet rays B and A would be on it. Now, not that anybody's going to have it outside anyways, but we thought, okay, it's a novel thing. People like to talk about it and call it an elixir and all that stuff. And we've just always kept it and kept it going. We did have a problem when we first started that we used to have the child-proof locks on here. Well, child-proof locks and alcohol leak. So we have to make sure that we don't have the child-proof locks. They have to be the regular ones. And we have to have it in a container that alcohol won't affect.
Yeah, let's be honest. If alcohol is affecting your container, I think you've got a pretty big problem on your hands. All you need is to get a phone call that says, "Hey, my bottle showed up, but there was nothing in it. It was all over the inside of the box." That's,
you know what? Like we go through thousands of bottles in a year, and we've done that for 15 years now. We've only had a problem with 2 bottles out of all that time, and that's because the cap broke. The bottle is actually a flexible plastic, but the lid on it is actually rigid. And if it hits the concrete floor, you lose it. And people ask us about the shelf life. Well, if you put that lid on really tight, it's virtually forever. You might have to shake it, but it'll last a long, long time. It's that little air pocket that lets the alcohol evaporate that'll get to you, but you gotta put the lid on tight.
yeah, but I think most people would be able to live with shaking the bottle if they have to. I mean, you have to shake it. You have to stir paint.
And we have trouble with the pigments once in a while because the pigment will settle, just like a can of paint. And they'll call us up and say, well, they can't get it mixed up because they went like this and nothing happened. Well, it's like a can of paint. You have to put a stick in there and stir it up a little bit.
Yeah, and get the stuff off
and
the
then it'll come
sides.
back to life.
I can tell you several stories of the hunters saving our clinic in Modeling with the Masters. A lot of times, for some reason, we do them almost side by side in each room. And usually I'll run in and go, "Hey, Rick, do you have a bottle of," and he'll start laughing. He goes, "Oh, that didn't take long to spill it, did it?" I said, "No." So, yeah, we use a lot of the stains in our Modeling with the Masters NMRA classes, mainly because 1, it works, and 2, it's a great product, and it does dry and evaporates fairly fast. And you know, when you did the introduction, Jim, you said Rick is the feature is Maureen. You just don't know you guys, but I do. Rick and I and Maureen kind of have a running joke when we're at shows together and stuff. I hug her and ignore him.
You don't even talk to me anymore.
Well, why would I when Maureen's there? But we've known each other. Well, Rick and I have known each other 100 years, and
How about that?
And Maureen's only 29, so I've only known her a few years.
Thank you.
But for those who have not maybe seen their kits, they are fantastic kits. We have used them in Mowing with the Masters, and Rick and Maureen are very generous with NMRA clinics and stuff. A lot of the local divisions, they'll do a hands-on clinic and supply the kits for a very nominal fee, and they're more than willing to show people, and just terrific people. And I can say that because they actually are, well, Maureen is, and but as I said, just terrific people and great product. And if you've never used or tried one of their kits, certainly try one. I guess the little King's Post bridge is one of the easiest. Or even the little snow shed, the little short one is really a neat kit. And if their instructions are pretty good, and if you ever have a problem or anything, you can always give them a call or show up at a show when they're there, when the co-video isn't happening, and Maureen will show you how to actually do it. Don't ask Rick.
I was just gonna say about the snow shed. That looks pretty complicated, okay? But you know what? It's 22 of the same thing over and over and over and over again.
That's funny.
It's a very neat kit.
Here is an
Thank
interesting.
you, Clark.
Your bottles are in the mail.
Yeah.
There is a bridge in Vermont, in Tunbridge, called Howe, Howe, bridge.
Yep.
That does not have a Howe truss. It's a bunch of King Post bridges to put together to make.
And that could be, yeah.
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 But it's called the Howe Bridge. Ironic.
Yeah, there used to be a House Scale Company in Rutland, Vermont, and that's probably it's probably a local name.
Oh, you mean somebody's name, some person?
Yes.
Which is how the Howe Trust got its name. It was invented by Howe.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the guy who invented it lived a town over from me.
Really?
Yeah, I live in Leicester.
Yeah.
Spencer is like 10 minutes that way. I didn't know that.
In Massachusetts and just spread out.
I mean, I know that Eli
neat
Whitney
about-
lived in Spencer, and I'm like, oh, did Spencer just like have this thing where it was like, we have all these geniuses at some point, because the town's kind of iffy now. It's Spencer. We locals crack jokes about it all the time.
The Howe family, they invented a lot of things, like his brother, something to do with the sewing machine. Like, I don't know, invented the Singer sewing machine or something. I don't know. But then, everybody Howe was the first one to do the long trestle that would hold the most weight. And then everybody thought they could build a better mousetrap. So Pratt got in there, Bowman got in there. There's probably a dozen guys that named the bridge after themselves, and it's a slightly different design on the Howe, but the Howe was the original for truss bridges.
Yeah, I'm looking through the list here. There was one that was used a lot in the Civil War.
Yes.
They could build it. Haupt, H-A-U-P-T, named after the general. And it was a truss that basically they build the sides, put them bunch of them on a flat car, and join them all together to make these huge bridges on top of spindly trestle work.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, one of the problems there is in the Civil War, it was the Great Chase. And the Great Chase, they destroyed the bridges behind them. And they had to build those bridges up in a matter of a day or two. And with Trestles, they could actually do that if they had enough trees around and enough guys to do it. And that's why that great chase is such a great thing from our point of view, is because somebody blew the bridge up and somebody made it up in a day or two.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole idea behind
That's
the
history.
hot truss, because he didn't need as many trestle bents. And it was all very spindly. It had to be replaced.
Yes.
But there's one in Thetford in Vermont in a covered bridge that's got a hop truss in it. I didn't know there was any even left in the United States.
Well, most of the covered bridges in New England are what's called a town bridge.
Yep.
Again, town made them, and actually it was lattice work, like they just like a lattice, like a whole bunch of pieces this angle and a whole bunch of pieces this angle. And for a highway bridge, for a road bridge, it was just a single layer of lattice, and for train bridges it was double. And I've always thought, okay, I'm going to produce the kit for trains, of course, and that would have to be a double a double lattice. So, man, that's a lot of wood to be put in there and a lot of gluing, okay? I don't know if it would be worth the effect or not.
It would look cool.
It looked complicated.
Well, another one I'm seeing a lot here on this list is a burr, B-U-R-R.
Yes, yep.
Huge timbers.
Yep. Now, some of those timbers are laminates. Like I've been to some of the covered bridges in Ohio. Couldn't take the motorhome across them, but you can stop and have a look. And they have the big wooden arch, okay? And that was made up of 2x2s laminated together. So it would be maybe 18 inches or 24 inches wide and maybe 18 or 24 inches high, all laminate 2x2s. And it was all built in the curve. Just right on the Ashtabula, there's a couple bridges like that. I think the Bowman bridges are one of the names like that.
Bowman was a metal arch, I think. Yeah, you're right. But
it's like everybody had their own design.
Oh yes.
I have a question. Out here in Newcastle, Washington, we had a railway bridge built in the 1890s for the narrow gauge, and then they converted it to standard gauge. And I've got a picture I'd like to share with you, and I want to ask a question about it. Got time to do that?
Absolutely. It's only 8:30 here.
Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. The original bridge is on the left, and that's a narrow gauge railway, a bridge that had a big S in it. I assume they did that for stability. Yep. But this bridge was fabricated obviously off on the landing at the west end of the trestle, and they brought the pieces out and lowered them down.
Yes.
And so my question is, was it standard practice to prefabricate pieces of these trestle bents, like in two layers, so to speak, and then bolt them together here?
Yeah, they're called stories. Okay.
Okay.
I can't see how high that is, but it looks like, I don't know, 160, 180 foot high. Well,
it was 130 feet high.
Oh, 130. Okay. They didn't have a lot of trees that were that long, so they did them in stories. Now I don't see the story, because what the stories look like is like, for an example, in that picture, the top two stories, and then that would be one structure, and then the third and the fourth and the fifth might be another structure.
Right.
But I don't see the tattletale signs of it being built in stories.
Well, with this configuration here, this obviously how they got them out there to the end and dropped them down on these cables. But I was just kind of curious how they had fabricated this. But do your kits emulate that story feature?
No, our trestles are a certain one, but one of the things about, one of the aspects about our kits is there's not very much in them that is pre-cut. If it's little tiny pieces, yeah, we pre-cut them. But something like the trestle, in our trestle kit, the only part that's cut to length are the ties. Everything else is full length. So if you want to make some part of it higher, some part of it lower, some wider, whatever you want, you can alter ours to do that. Now, getting back to the various stories, if you follow the overall picture, if you go back to it, you'll see that you see at the top there, there's actually 4 posts on it. And the 4 posts, the 2 in the middle are absolutely vertical, and they go right underneath the track. And you can follow that vertical line all the way down to the bottom. The other ones are what's the word for that? Battered, yes, which means they're out. And they are used for any swaying. Like all the cross members, all the planking that's used is to prevent it from swaying. When you got a valley like this, the valley became a huge wind tunnel. And the whole thing was not to let the force of that wind move the structure. And they were built for some centrifugal force. They were super elevated also too. Like that curved one there on the left, that would probably be super elevated on it. But the wind, so that's the sway bracing that way. The sway bracing the other way is to dissipate the different weights that go across the bridge. The locomotive obviously is a lot different weight than what the consist would be. This brings up the aspect of a suspension bridge. There's not too many suspension bridge for trains. There is for light rail, like New York City has many suspension bridges for light rail, but our good old Niagara Falls was a notorious place to make suspension bridges for trains going across the Niagara River. And the average lifespan was about 5 years. Every one of them collapsed. They just do not take it because when especially double heading, if the double heading comes onto suspension bridge, the whole point of the suspension bridge is it can move. So the locomotive would go like this, and then as it crossed over to the other side, it would go like this. And it would go back and forth with the weight of the locomotive. It just wasn't stable enough. I've gone through the Tacoma Bridge, if you ever hear about that, how it was a road bridge, but the Tacoma Bridge, they use it in horror films all the time, where it started a frequency, and I think it was 28 hours. Yeah, and it just went berserk. It just swayed in the wind as if it was nothing. I've actually, at our science center here in Toronto, I've actually gone through the 28 hours of Tacoma, and the first 6 hours, you can't tell anything. And with the last hour, oh man, that bridge was in motion big time. Like the sway, I forget, was like 60 feet from left to right before it wasn't
down. Just doing that, it was twisting and
yeah, not just straight. It was just like a wet
video
noodle.
and it's
but that's why suspension bridges were not used for mainline. Yes, there's the light rails that you will see in most of them that I know of are in New York City, just because they were overbuilt to start with and they can take light rail. But suspension bridges are a no-no for trains.
Anybody have any more questions for Rick or Maureen?
Actually, I've got one, but it's not on bridges. Rick, you mentioned a CPR stockyard that you're going to be bringing out. Is there information on that on your website?
No, we don't really put anything on the website until it's finalized. Like we don't give any preliminary coming up things.
Okay, any idea when you might have that?
About 2 years ago. Many years ago, CP made up a package of all their of the actual blueprints of their structures, and I happened to get one, and I have hundreds of copies of actual drawings of CP stuff, and I'm trying to produce the CP. There's 3 or 4 different designs that they had. One of the things there is for the fencing going around, is it a square post or a round post? Again, I have the round basswood doweling, so I can do it in round, but most of the ones you see are square, and that's not the way they were, because square lumber took more work to do than round lumber. So I'd like to produce one that's round. And then I found out a big thing too is it's much different if it's for sheep than for cattle, because sheep are not as tall as cattle, and so the fencing is a little different for sheep. I didn't know that.
Okay, so there would be different ones then for each animal. That's interesting.
Yeah, especially if it was a shared facility.
Okay, so what one are you eventually going to bring out, cattle or sheep?
Well, I thought, you can use the sheep one for the cattle, but you can't use the cattle one for the sheep.
Do the cattle.
So do
that makes sense.
So do the cattle one. Yeah.
If you want to make it shorter, you can make it shorter.
Yeah, believe it or not, even the cleats on the ramps are much different in sizes and height than for sheep than it is compared to cattle.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah.
And the spacing. Years ago, I don't know if you remember, Rick, at the ID, we did Where's the Beef? And each gut-felt person who wanted to do a clinic picked basically a topic out of the hat, and I got stock pens. And I went to, and I knew nothing about stock pens, and I went to a local library and got a book, and then I looked at CP stuff, and I looked at, but in the farmers kind of vernacular, it was very interesting on, like you said, round post, square post. They use square posts sometimes, they use round posts for different, but ramps and the angle of the ramp was quite different than for cattle to sheep to pigs. Even pigs is a different one.
Yes.
Pigs is a different.
Pigs I know about.
Yeah, because well, you would, Paul, but they're the way that they step, the way that they move around, especially in a confined area, is all taken into consideration. And I found it just fascinating how different, people just say, oh, it's a stock pen. Well, no, it's not. It's quite different. One of the points that were made is when you're transporting a piece of beef or a large pig, or a piece of sheep, each one of those is worth a lot of money. And if the railroad kills it or damages it, i.e. it breaks his leg going up a ramp and they have to shoot it, that comes out of the railroad's pocket. It's quite interesting. And at the time, of course, railroads, why they had so many stock pens across a main line was there was only so many hours in a day that a piece of livestock could travel, and then it had to be taken off, watered, and fed. And just fascinating information that's out there. And the big problem with this stuff is, and Rick alluded to it, you know, he's kind of a perfectionist, and he says, you know, I should have been out 2 years ago. But the problem is, how detailed do you want to get? And that goes for all of us in model railroading. Like, if you get off in some of these tangents and you'd never build a railroad.
Well, I'm going to go on a tangent. Would goats and sheep have been different?
Yes, believe it or not.
Well, I do believe.
One of the big differences is the way they kick. A pig kicks at a certain level, and a sheep kicks at a certain level, and a cow is at, and the railing going around it has to reflect that they can't kick through the fence. See, I have the philosophy that the more I know I don't know. So I start researching, and I research it to death, and I finally say, that's it, I got to do it.
Well, yeah.
What are you going to do?
So we're going to have to produce a cow one, a pig one, and a sheep one. Okay. But we'll put it in the same kit.
When you bring one out, I'm in for one when you get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But see, I would put that into a kit. And if you build it this way, it's this. And if you build it this way, it's for this. And if you build it this way, it's for this. But it's all included in the same kit.
That works great. Then I can pick my animal.
Yeah.
Man.
Mark, which one do you want to be in?
What's that?
I said, which one do you want to be in?
Well, it is Canadian Thanksgiving. I was thinking maybe a turkey pen.
Oh,
Anyway, that answers my question. So I'll be in touch at some point.
Okay. And of course, it's going to have the ramp and all that, and the loading ramp and all that stuff on it, and the what do you call it, the platform, and see, it'd probably be a different type of platform for each one too. No, maybe not.
And actually,
it would all be the same.
And you know what, Rick? The gates are different.
Yeah, they would be.
Yeah. Well, the one for CP is kind of neat because it has an where the door is, it has an offset post, and it's hinged off of there. So you put the hinge one way, and it creates the ramp for the animals coming off the car to go down the ramp like this. And then you put the ramp the other way, and then it feeds the next car. And it goes down into the first one goes into the right side of the pen, and the next one goes into the left side of the pen. And I thought, oh, okay, this is a neat design. I'm liking it better and better instead of just a fence.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of neat little things in there.
It's hard to get something like that that's accurate, which is what I've been looking for. And when you said that, I thought, okay, you may have solved my problem, but I just have to wait and outlive you.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Don't go there.
Just in case you haven't noticed, that Mr. Thompson is a friend and well, okay, an acquaintance. Let's not kid ourselves. And Maureen and that. So Paul actually has been chairman of a fairly growing model railroad train show in sort of I'll call it northwest Toronto area, and is a former chairman of a club that I belonged to at one point too.
You might want to hear some news, Clark. I stepped down from the chairman of the show too.
Yeah, I heard that.
I'm getting too old.
Well, I didn't want to tell you that, but
who's going to outlive who?
Listen, Paul, Paul, with your background on shows and my lack of background on shows, we sure could use your help and advice.
Anytime you want to ask, but you know, I'm in with the live shows, but this virtual stuff sometimes leaves me a bit offbeat because I don't know much about computers.
I understand that. I don't either. That's what's got me so concerned here. I just hope we're doing it the right way. But I sure could use some advice and help along with it. I'll tell you that.
Well, anytime you need any help, just give me a shout.
All right.
I think my email's on there for Dylan.
Yep,
Dylan,
I should have it.
I'll let you bridge guys get back to it. I'm done with the animals.
Dylan, can you send me Paul's email?
Sure thing.
You're only done, Paul, if the sauce is the correct sauce.
Watch it now. Be careful.
Well, we could
some
throw
sauce for the turkey.
There's
I got a source.
sauce. There's Texas sauce, Carolina sauce, St. Louis.
I think somebody's still looking for that sauce.
That's an inside. It's an inside story. We'll have to tell them one day when we have time.
Hey, Paul, I'm just having trouble finding your email in my list.
Raven Duck Range.
There we go. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes. And then, of course, there's Arizona sauce, which has lots of New Mexico peppers in it. If you can handle it.
But then there's Hunterline.
We handle all sauces.
And then there's Hunterline Breaking Bad sauce.
Not even gonna go there.
That leaves you kind of tinged in color, though.
unless you make the Hunterline sauce with rye whiskey rather than isopropyl.
You don't know how many bottles we could make of that?
Yeah, but
I
could
don't
you
think we
put
get
that
through
into
one.
the United States?
I think a good dark Scotch will stain ties too.
Like, why would I bother to sell it? We have been at a few truck stops when we're Breaking Bad, and this one was in California. It was raining like crazy, and of course we have every light on in the motorhome because we convert the tables in the bed and we convert everything into a lab, and the aroma of alcohol was going over the whole parking lot. And we wondered what people thought of us.
Well, you can actually get legal moonshine.
Well, I wish we could have this, we even investigated how to distill to get the 70% isopropyl that we need. That was going to be our last resort.
That might lead to trouble.
But we had to look at keeping the costs down, okay? Because there was a couple various places that we could get alcohol, but it was so outrageous of a price that there was no way we could do it. Like I say, we retail it at 10, and we've had to increase it to 13 just to get by from COVID, like just from the alcohol standpoint. And for per Canadian buddies, that's $13 US, which is a big increase for Canadian dealers and customers. We don't have a choice anymore.
And you can't use methanol or anything like that.
No, methanol is actually dangerous to your health when you're in close quarters.
Well, yeah.
Have you tried looking at a brewery to get alcohol out of the brewery, distilled alcohol?
Well, we went that way, okay? And we talked to a couple breweries here locally because there's a lot of microbreweries, and they wouldn't even give us the time of day because their output has increased so greatly over COVID that they couldn't even spend time to even think about us. Actually, where we found it, because all the 70% isopropyl is being used for hand sanitizers, we actually went to a hand sanitizer place right here in Cambridge, Ontario, and
Just started up.
yeah, they just started up in the soap business, and hand sanitizers are a sideline of theirs. So we talked to them and they said, how much do you want? We can supply you as much as you want when you want. And yeah, it's at a over double the price of the alcohol that we can buy it for, but it's an endless supply at this point. And yay.
Yeah.
Well, double the price is better than 10 times the price.
Well, exactly. And now we have the situation where we've got so many back orders to do and so many distributors and dealers to get caught up. It's like a huge surge that we have to take care of. So we're not going to our customer database yet because we're just doing our dealers and the people who, you know, distributors and so on that actually move it for us. Then we have to get it there too.
Yeah.
I noticed the number of colors available on the website was much reduced.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. There's 45 colors on there, but back in April, as the colors became zero inventory, what we did was hide them on the website so that nobody could buy them. Okay, because there's none to buy. So we hid them. So as they become available, we'll be opening up the website to the ones that are available as they come up. And Driftwood and Creosote Black and some of those ones will be the first ones to come back on. But we have 45 colors on it right now.
Do you have a catalog or is it just the website?
It's just the website.
Okay.
We find nobody reads catalogs anymore.
Some of us do.
Then you get the fella who doesn't know what a computer is and he wants a catalog. And we'll print it off and send it to him. But
anybody else have any questions or comments?
Well, I've noticed on your website you have apparently two 50-foot queen post truss covered bridges, but they look exactly the same.
One's standard gauge and one's narrow gauge. So the height is different and the width is different. See, all of our kits like the queen post and the king post, there's drawings in there for narrow gauge and there's drawings in there for standard gauge. But when we got to the covered bridge, we thought, you know what, there's so much of a greater difference between the two that we're going to put it out as two kits. So the width is actually different and the height is actually different for the narrow gauge. And in that case, it makes a lot of wood.
I'm not seeing a difference between the two, except for the main picture. I guess I'm missing something here.
But there should be two pictures there under each scale.
One's red, one's gray.
Yeah, one's red and one's gray.
Yeah, the gray one I think is the narrow gauge.
And you'll see below it all the dimensions are there. Okay.
Let's see. So where the footprint is, right?
The footprint would be basically the same except for maybe the width. But then when you get into the clearances for the width and clearances for the height, it would be much different.
I went to your HO page and you've got 3 covered bridges. And one of them's marked HON3. Yeah, like the inside height is almost an inch different.
Yes,
That's what I was at.
and the width is I forget the exact measurement, but it's shorter for the narrow gauge.
Yeah, I'm at the page that TC's at, and it does show 3 of them, and one says narrow gauge, and the other 2 look the same. That's why I'm sort of kind of confused.
Okay, there should only be 2 on there.
No, there's 3, and that may be what's confusing him.
Probably 2 of them are the same then.
They appear to be Rick.
Yeah, because they're both red.
We're looking.
Yeah, they've got different pictures, but they appear to be the same bridge.
Oh, technology, we love it because we can only find 2.
Well, it's putting it out.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute here, a little web research. Let's see. I want to go and view the inspection.
Well, there is 3.
Oh, there is 3. Okay, we got it. That's
All
a
right.
different
Did you get it?
image.
Well, I'm not going nuts.
Well,
No, you're
that's
not going
that's debatable,
So-
but
I was wondering when you're going to say that.
The two red ones are both the same, so I just have to take one off. They're the standard HO. Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I ain't a please.
Never look at the website, okay? I wonder if that's for the other scales too.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You see, these designs like our trestles, it's not hard to make them narrow gauge. Basically, the 3 stringers that go under the rails, all you do for narrow gauge is move those in a little bit. That's fine tuning it, but that's all that's needed to do it, because the design of the trestle itself is pretty generic for every line there is. Okay, there's not any specific line that it's prototype off of, but ours is a 6-post. You can make it into a 4-post real easy. Like I say, the only part that's cut in that is the ties. Now, there's a good thing about ties. In all our history, we have found that ties going across a bridge are a different profile, and of course, they're closer together on top of a bridge. What I mean by a different profile is a lot of times they're the same as the mainline ties, but back then they used to be just a common 8x8 tie. They didn't have to worry about one side up and one side down or whatever. They just went ahead and laid them down. But they're usually an 8x8, and they're also a lot wider than a regular tie. And we cross that bridge a lot, that, no pun, but that people, why are the ties so close together? Well, it's just that type of a structure that needs them to be close together. We're asked all the time about the colors of ties. Well, because we've walked a lot of rail lines, what we always suggest is you use 3 different colors of stain, be it like a driftwood, and I don't know, Cordovan and Thai brown. Yeah, we have Thai brown, which is really dark. Okay, so we put about 1/3 of the Thai in each one of the stains, and then we randomly put it on the bridge. And yeah, the Thais are very distinctly different colors. But when we, at the end, when we add on that creosote black, which is all the oily, greasy stuff, it coheres all those Thais together. And just about every one of our sample ones that we have on our table are that way. There's 3 colors, basically 3 colors. And the black ties them all in together. That black is great. You just use it everywhere. It works for everything.
Well, wouldn't there be a lot of difference between something built where it had steam engines and something with diesel as far as where the oil deposits would be?
Yeah. Again, because I'm not into diesel stuff, okay? And I was told, well, the oil drippings are different on a diesel than they are on a steam. And most of our stuff is steam era anyways, okay? So we just plaster the grimy, gritty stuff all over the place. If you want to get specific, yeah, you can get specific, but all the ones we've seen, it's pretty easy, even. Yeah, the more diesel line now is a definite drip.
Mm-hmm.
But back
well,
then,
like
it was
there
pretty much.
There was a trestle that just burnt down in Oregon, and if you went there, it had the stuff on the outside where the steam engines had gone across looked like it was done, almost 100 years ago, and all the fresh oil was down the middle where the traction motors.
Yeah. Yep. It just reminded me of another interesting thing about the trestles, the big trestles going across the Rockies. Yeah, they had a lifespan, and usually when they replaced them, they just dumped the wood on the side down the canyon or wherever. And one of the neat aspects that I found was that they used to take ballast and drop it from the top of the bridge and actually bury all the bents of the trestle. I've actually got pictures of, they take 4x8 sheets of plywood and have them attached to the ends of the ties and stringers, and the ballast car comes across and drops, and the plywood shoots it out. So maybe the trestles, I don't know, let's say 2,000 feet long, but what it is now is maybe only a couple 100 feet long, and the rest is all buried. It's still there. And to this day, there's a lot of trestles out there that look little, but they're still big. They just found out it's.
Now, from my understanding, Canada originally was a broad gauge. Is there anything broad gauge that is left? I guess it was before the U.S. Civil War. I guess they were considered broad gauge. It was, I think it was 5'6" or something like that.
I don't know enough about that aspect of it. I would assume no, because they're all can run on each other's tracks all the time. So I don't think there would be anything different now in the gauges. So you're opening up a whole new research thing for me?
Maureen, I want to thank you both so much for being here tonight. This has really been enjoyable. It's obvious listening to both of you talk and interact that you're a great couple and some fantastic modelers, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your knowledge and information with us tonight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm only an email away, okay?
Well, our next meetup is Wednesday, October the 14th at 7 o'clock Eastern. And this one is going to be a My Build section. So you'll be able to bring your models, show them off, and get some comments. And we hope to see you then. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And most importantly, I hope you learned something that will help you in your modeling. Thanks so much for being here.